Morgankara was a Siberian shaman. He was so powerful that he could rescue souls from anywhere, even from heaven and hell. So nobody was getting to heaven because Morgankara was curing everybody. Well, God didn't like that. I'll get this guy, he said. So he took a woman's soul, put it in a bottle, and put his thumb over the top. Suddenly God heard a drum beat, and up through the hole in the sky came Morgankara. He saw that God had a soul in the bottle. Instantly, he turned into a fly. Have you ever been to the Arctic? There are flies up there that'll take a piece right out of you. And that's what Morgankara did to God. He bit God on the forehead, and God said, "Oh, God," and took his thumb off the bottle. Morgankara scooped up the soul, hopped back onto his drum, and was riding back down to earth when God sent down a thunderbolt that cut his drum in half. And that's why the shaman's drum has only one head. We are tuned in to Fitness and Consciousness. Today's episode is called A New Background. And for those of you watching, you can see I have a new background. It's this giant great horned owl in my tapestry here. So I ordered this shortly after the owl experience that I've told on the show before. To summarize, I was out in the woods and I was climbing on this fallen tree with a buddy of mine, Joey, and I looked over and I saw this great horned owl on the tree. So it was a fallen tree, and so the part we were climbing on was the trunk, the bottom of it where it was cut from the roots, and the owl would be at the top of the tree. And it was probably about like 7 feet off the ground, something like that. And I was like, whoa. So I started walking closer and closer, and it got to a part where I had to, and I sat and I was watching, and this owl and I were just looking into each other's eyes for quite a while. It was very powerful. And I wanted to get even closer. So I had to climb down and then like get around these branches and climb back up to sit even closer. I could have reached over and touched owl, and I almost did. I kind of regret not trying. But to summarize the lesson that I got from that experience so far, which may still be unfolding, is who are you? It's a good question, right? Who are you? Who are you? What are you doing here? And so I wanted to somewhat immortalize that experience, I guess you could say. And I found this tapestry, and I hope it looks cool. I think it looks cool. It's this awesome great horned owl. And so I got to thinking about the show and like the background. So it's like, okay, yes, it's literally a background. I could have it as a brick wall, a picture of like the New York skyline. I could have just my wall, my drywall wall. My previous background for the show was heart chakra lotus. And it was just time for a new one. And I think I have a winner here. I like it. And so I'm thinking about, well, what's your background? So you think like back, okay, it's kind of like behind, ground, okay, ground, foundation, okay. It's like, what's your foundation that's like holding up who you are? something like that. You following me? Are you with me? So, okay, what's my background? Fitness, martial arts, nature guy. I like being out in the woods. I like climbing trees. I like hanging out with owls and deer and uh, doing this kind of cool stuff. What's my other background? Oh, I forgot. I've worked at some factories. Oh, I forgot. I worked at like a warehouse. Oh, I forgot. I washed cars when I was in high school as my job. A dealership my dad worked at. I'd get home from school, ride my bike to the dealership across town, and wash cars for a few hours. And what else is my background? Two kids. Is that background? That's background, right? That's not a foundation to build up who you are. I don't know what else would be except other stuff. But those are huge, right? Kids. I get to thinking like, so I've been in martial arts. I started taking Japanese style jiu-jitsu over 20 years ago. It was before my daughter was born. She was born in 1998. Um, so like late 1997 is when I started taking Japanese style jiu-jitsu. And we did punching, kicking, everything. Japanese style it was like a complete style. Punch, kick, throw, choke, like all the judo throws that you would see. Like we did like everything. And I guess you could say since we did everything, then like the Brazilian jiu-jitsu schools that don't do all of that stuff, they're better on the ground. You could say that. Just like at the karate school, they're probably gonna be better at kicking and punching. We kick and punch too, but since we do all this other stuff, anyways. So I was kind of like looking for. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to try out, a couple new classes, and I do this from time to time. I've been to a few different Brazilian jiu-jitsu classes, and I've never taken a Muay Thai class. So I've done like punching, kicking, a lot of sparring, MMA. I've done that stuff, and so I thought maybe I'll check out a couple Muay Thai classes and see what happens. So I ordered a mouthpiece, and that came in. I just it's boil and bite. It's supposed to be a good one, and this coming week I'm going to go check out a couple Muay Thai classes. I've got two different ones in mind. One of them I went to a jiu-jitsu school there at the same place, but so it's like that will be my background in the future. Okay, so like what do you want your background to be? I think sometimes we don't always see what we're doing as from very far ahead. I mean, some things are really obvious. You want to go to school to be a doctor or an engineer, and then you graduate and then you become a doctor and an engineer. Yeah, it was the plan all along. It's obviously what the plan is. But sometimes when you start off as in a martial art or in lifting, some kind of exercise, strength training, sometimes it's not obvious where you'll end up. So like, what's my background? So I don't know the exact date, but it was real recently that my Strong First kettlebell instructor certification expired. I'm not going to renew it. I was a Strong First instructor for 4 years. I passed the test twice. The second time I had the instructor look at my level 2 skills, I would have passed level 2. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Well, I shouldn't say that. At the time, it was a huge deal. I was my girlfriend at the time. A little over 4 years ago, before I took my first test, she she encouraged me to take it because she knew I was not happy with my current job. I was driving a cab, And she knew I loved training. She knew I was a trainer before. And so she really encouraged me to get certified by Strong First. And it was a tough test. It was a tough preparation. And I did it, and I got it done. When I was preparing for the test, I ended up getting like an injury, so there's these like, okay, so what's the proper shoulder mobility? Okay. You should be able to get within like a fist distance when you put your arms behind your back, one over the top or around behind your head, and then the other one up your back. And it should be a what? Who made that up? I don't think it's true. Yes, if you can hold your hands there greatly and like chant Om and stuff, good for you. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. Maybe it does matter. See, also, it doesn't matter or not if your shoulders do that. But when I got my shoulders to that level of like anytime mobility, I ended up having shoulder problems. Now my shoulders might be what you would call tight. They don't have any problems. They're fine. Except I can't do that trick. I can't pass that test that shows that they're fine. They feel great. They're strong. Watch me press 115 pounds over my head twice with one arm, and then tell me my shoulder doesn't work right. And that's weighing about 160, by the way. I could probably do more than that too, but whatever. But because I can't do this thing that somebody made up, it means my shoulders aren't mobile enough. No, it doesn't mean that at all. But it can mean that. I'm not saying don't believe that. I'm just saying it's okay. It's not the whole truth. It could be true, but it's not the whole truth, right? So when I went to my test, when I went to the certification, it's a 3 days, pretty rough. First day, it was like this reality check, because I only had 2 lessons, and this is real technical lifting, or at least it seems like it. It is. I don't want to say anything bad about it, because it is a technical test. I don't want to make it seem like I'm like above it or something like that. But I also kind of do. See, there's those 2 things at the same time, right? So I get there, and it's the first day, and I'm training with, the standard 24 kilogram, 53 pound bell. And one of the instructors tells me to start using a lighter bell, like something was off about my technique. I was like, uh-oh, what? And then I saw like one of the instructors doing the snatch demonstration. I was like, uh-oh, that's different than how I do it. Is that going to work? And it's like after the first day, I was pretty sore. After the second day, these are like about 10-hour days. And lots of lifting, lots of swings, it's mentally and physically challenging. So so it was a Friday and a Saturday, and I was walking back to the hotel. This was in Chicago, and like the hotel was like basically you just walk over this bridge. I don't know, it's a half mile or some mile, probably not even quite a mile, something like that. Walk from the hotel door to the door of the dome. And I was walking back, and I was sore. And there were times you had to press 53 pounds 5 times. Usually no big deal for me. But my shoulder was so messed up, there were times I couldn't even press 35 pounds once. Arm just wouldn't do it. And my left arm was fine. Right arm, not fine. And so like doing the get-ups, you have to demonstrate get-ups. And I couldn't post on that arm. It just wouldn't. So I asked the instructor, I was like, I can do it with my other arm, no problem, but I have this injury. And he's like, oh, well, you could just send in a video. And I'm thinking, there's no way in hell I'm sending in a video. I'm passing this test. So I was walking back to my hotel that Saturday evening and from training. I remember walking up kind of the hill of the bridge, and I'm just like giving myself this pep talk, like you have to do this, you have to do this. And it's like I had an excuse, my shoulder, I had an excuse, so sore. But then I went back the next day and I passed the test. And there was a written test, and so you get back to your hotel after 10 hours of training, and the manual was like 130 some pages. So basically you had to read 70 pages of somewhat technical information and remember that and remember it all. So very physical workout for 10 hours, go back to the hotel and read 70 pages, and then get back to the training facility the next morning at 8 or whatever it was, ready to go. Get back to the hotel, read another 70 pages, be back on Sunday for the test, and I did it. And then 2 years later, I did it again, except I retested using Skype. But you have to do all the same stuff. And so I was really proud to have accomplished that, because it was the only certification that I wanted besides getting certified by Valery Fedorenko, who I started that out, and then some things changed with his certification. And so when I was 2 weeks away from testing, like everything changed. Now I understand why, because in this great, crazy sequence of events, I'm actually partnered with him in the gym that we own. So that's kind of surreal, even still. But he's a really good guy, really really awesome to be partnered with him, working out with him and stuff. And but I decided way before I even met Valery that I was not going to renew my Strong First certification again. I looked into it. I can get insurance without a certification. I can so what it really comes down to is that at my level of experience, I don't think it matters. I don't need to be certified by anybody anymore. My background is strong enough that I don't have to do it. I've had the students, I've had the clients, I've had the results, testimonials, all this stuff. It has led up to me. I don't need anybody's certification. I will probably get certified by Valery. I've worked out with him some and had lessons, and there is some things that we have planned, but it's not like I need it. I want it. And so my idea, even like I said, even before I met him, I was going to do my own thing. That's freestyle kettlebell training. It doesn't mean just do anything you want, although you can. It's still very, very technical. And I hold myself to a higher standard than what Strong First does. Or I hope that came off right. So I didn't mean that as a dig against Strong First. I meant it as I'm not doing this so I can just take it easy. I'm doing this because I'm turning up the intensity. I'm turning up the volume, and my own standard of myself is higher than what any other test that there is. And a lot of it, you look at Instagram, and if you're like me, I scroll through Instagram and I see all these people doing these different workouts and showing techniques and doing these different things, and it's cool. I like it. I like how everybody's showing what they do, showing off, and kind of like documenting their progress. But if one went missing, would you notice? Probably not. If somebody missed a workout, would you care? If I missed my workout, if instead of working out yesterday, I just didn't, um, then would you care? Probably not. You probably would not even notice. I went to the gym. I had a couple clients, and then in between, I got my own workout in, and I had like some like weird, I don't know if it's like this allergy thing or something, but man, it it kind of like took a lot out of me. I hate to admit even that I might ever get sick or anything like that, and I rarely do. But this stuff, I was like I had like a little bit of a headache, and before I learned this breathing technique years and years and years ago. I learned this breathing technique where if you can get rid of a headache, and so I literally hadn't had a headache in I don't even know, a decade more. I don't know. I learned this technique a long, long time ago, and so anytime a headache would even like maybe start, I would do this breathing technique, and then it was just gone. Like even like by the time it was gone, I would end up like forgetting to do the breathing technique. The headache was gone, and then I would just be gone. I would just forget about that it even happened. But I had like this like little headache, and my nose is stuffed up. I'm blowing my nose, and blood's coming out. And what is going on? My eyes are itching, and I'm coughing, and what is the deal here? And so I did a workout. I had this cycle. Um, Cycle's not, to keep things simple, I'll call it a cycle. So I started this new cycle, and it gets pretty intense. And each workout of the cycle gets harder and harder until it's time to end the cycle. And so the first or the second time I did it, I think I was like pretty sick, like that, or like the allergy thing. It's something, some kind of immune something. And then yesterday when I went to do it, so it's like I was doing a little bit more than the time before. And what it is it's a 30-minute workout. Every minute on the minute, I would either do, it's holding two 57-pound kettlebells. I would do 3 squats. And then before I put the bells down, I would either do 1 or 2 jerks. And then the next minute, I would either do 3 or 4 pull-ups. Okay, so the last workout, before that, I was just doing 1 jerk at the end. So each workout of the cycle, you add reps. I don't want to explain it all right now. But there's not much recovery time in between sets. It's 30 sets in 30 minutes. And I wasn't feeling so great. I'm blowing my nose, blood's coming out. And I get like, you start off, it's not too bad. You get 10 minutes down, that's cool. 15 minutes down, it's cool. 18 minutes, okay, it gets to be like 20 minutes, and it's getting tough, but I'm cool, And then blowing my nose, and blood's coming out, and I'm not feeling great at all. And like it gets to be like 24 minutes, 25 minutes, and I'm pretty much whooped. I was like, I'm not feeling great. And it's like, I think I'm perfectly justified to cut the workout at 25 minutes. It's still 25 sets of exercise with very little rest in between. And because they're every minute on the minute. But then it's like, no, just keep going, because this is, like part of it is, some people that train like martial artists. I'm a martial artist myself. So like, what am I proving here? Like in martial arts, when you're going against like grappling, you don't go at you hopefully are going at your own pace. Hopefully you're the one that's setting the pace, but that's not the reality all the time. If you're not going against people that are better than you, you're not at the right you're not at the right gym. So there will be people putting a pace on you that you have a hard time keeping up with. There's going to be people that are bigger than you that you can't be bigger than. There's going to be people that are stronger than you. There'll be people that are more aggressive. Maybe they're a little bit just meaner. They're not so worried about hurting people as you. But they're setting that, and it's uncomfortable. That's the point, right? So I'm getting to this point in my workout. I'm 25 minutes in and blowing blood out of my nose, and I'm just foggy headed, and I can barely, but I just keep going and keep going and keep going. And I got it done. 30 sets. I hit all my numbers, and that was it, you know. So that's the kind of standard I'm talking about for myself. So when I get this background, it's like, who are you? That's who I am. You know, what's the owl talking about? Who are you? What are you doing here? What's your background? What is behind you that created the foundation for you to stand? Do you know what I'm talking about? Are you hearing me? You get it? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Is the owl making sense to you? Is having that owl stare at you the whole time? Is that helping? It is really cool. And this owl, it's kind of like dark. It's getting dark. It's probably about 9 o'clock or so here, and my lighting's not so great in my apartment. I think I'm gonna get a better light. So I don't know if it looks like a little pixelated. It kind of does on my screen, but I think it usually clears up a little bit by the time I upload it and everything. But you can see on this owl, looks like part of his beak was broken, which I didn't notice until after I got the tapestry. So what'd the owl do? Because that looks like I'm fairly certain that's a real picture. Did the owl be like, oh man, I have a broken beak. It's probably pretty tender. You give up? Nope. They don't give up. Keep going. That's who the owl is. I have maybe I'll explain why I read that shaman story at the beginning. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll get to that later. Just picked this randomly. This is from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I have not read this through yet. I just opened it. I stood on the bridge at midnight as the clocks were striking the hour and the moon rose over the city. Behind the dark church tower, I saw her bright reflection in the waters under me, like a golden goblet falling and sinking into the sea. And far in the hazy distance of that lovely night in June, the blaze of the flaming furnace gleamed redder than the moon. Among the long black rafters, the wavering shadows lay, and the current that came from the ocean seemed to lift and bear them away. As sweeping and eddying through them rose the belated tide, and streaming into the moonlight, the seaweed floated by. And those waters rushing among the wooden piers, a flood of thoughts came over me that filled my eyes with tears. How often, oh, how often, in the days that had gone by, I had stood on that bridge at midnight and gazed on that wave and sky. How often, oh, how often I wished that the ebbing tide would bear me away on its bosom over the ocean wild and wide. For my heart was hot and restless, and my life was full of care, and the burden laid upon me seemed greater than I could bear. But now it has fallen from me. It is buried in the sea, and only the sorrow of others throws its shadow over me. Yet whenever I cross the river on the bridge with wooden piers, like the odor of brine from the ocean comes the thought of other years. And I think how many thousands of care-encumbered men, each bearing his burden of sorrow, have crossed the bridge since then. I see the long procession still passing to and fro, the young heart hot and restless, and the old subdued and slow. And forever, as long as the river flows, as long as the heart has passions, as long as life has woes, the moon and its broken reflection and its shadows shall appear as the symbol of love in heaven and its wavering image here. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. You know, sometime when I was picking out poems, I picked out the shaman one. That one wasn't really random. But I've been liking just reading some random stuff on the show. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 books on the table to choose from. So what would you like your background to be? And what will you do about it? You know, I can't imagine not being a trainer. I can easily imagine not working at the factory that I work at. And sometimes, like when I get done from the factory and I'm driving home, and it's hot in there. There's no air conditioning. I mean, it's it is what it is. It's not that bad of a job. And I just got moved to an even easier spot. But sometimes I think like, man, I just want to go home and sit there. And then like it takes me a second to remember like, oh, I have clients. And that's exciting. I mean, a lot of them are clients I've had for years. But I don't get sick of that. I've seen, maybe it's perfectly normal. I guess depending on where somebody's doing their business and if they're doing their business according to their self, or if they're doing their business according to what somebody else wants. They're an employee at a gym where they have to do things a certain way and they don't like that. But I see like on these trainers, like Facebook pages, like, no, I don't go to them very often, but sometimes I'm flipping through, I'll see, and somebody's just real burned out and sick of it. And like, how do you keep going? And to me, I think everybody hits that point in some way. But as I was reading in, I think it was Walt Whitman. It was talking about I forget how it was worded exactly, but it was something like, don't let what you have to do get in the way of what you want to do. So if I just have it in my mind, like, oh, I work at the factory and it's hot. When I get home, I'm so tired. I'm just going to put off training for a while. I'm just going to work at the factory until I save up enough money to start my own business. And, nope, can't think that way. It's, when I started, like I was talking about, my girlfriend at the time that encouraged me to get back in training again professionally, because I still trained with trained friends and friends of friends and that kind of stuff. But I forget what I was saying. I forget what I was saying. But anyways, the point was, like, don't let what you want to do, don't let what you have to do get in the way of what you want to do. So when I started as a trainer again 4 years ago, which I started as a trainer originally in 1999, got out of it for a while, blah, 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 got back into it. And so then I was working at someone else's gym as an independent, and I was teaching workshops at other places. And then I started teaching classes at another place, and it was all really cool. No complaints, but it wasn't my own, and nobody was telling me what to do. But I'm somebody that I always wanted my own place and not share as much as of the money, take the risk of having to pay rent and having to take care of that kind of stuff, and, have the risk and the reward from it. And now that's happening. That's happening. It's like this background that I have that goes back really since I was a little kid in this fitness study. It was really paid off. But just kind of like the way things are, I'm still working at this factory because I'm not yet ready to take the risk to only train. I'm probably not too far from it, but have kids, child support. I only have like one kid left that I'm paying for. My daughter's 21. My son is 18. He'll be 19 in February. So it's like, as long as I have that going on, and see that this is something else too. So this is what I'm getting to, this state of mind that we get ourselves into, this kind of these paradigms that we get stuck in. So my thinking was, as long as I have that responsibility, I'm going to do what I have to do. And then I can do what I want to do for free. If I want to train with people, if I want to do something, but I'll do what I have to do for money. I almost always lived by myself since I had my own apartment before I was 19, and I'm 40 now, and I've lived with a couple women, but for the vast majority of the time I've lived by myself. And so paying child support, which of course we should do, I'm not complaining about that, but it's a responsibility that's above your own needs. Okay. So I guess for some of which maybe it's not so easy for me to explain, maybe for like a lot of my time, because I was paying so much in my mind, that times were like tougher than they had to be because of the way I was thinking. So I was getting things done, but I guess for a lot of that time, you could say I was not largely financially successful. I was usually doing fine. I mean, I wasn't like, some great poverty or anything like that, but it was not a lot of abundance the way people would think of in, like the American dream kind of abundance compared to what people make in other countries. Yeah, you could say I had abundance. But so now, people are like good at these different things. And so some people are like, maybe they're great with money. Maybe they just understand business it's easy for them to make a lot of money. They don't see why somebody else is struggling making money. All you have to do is this and this and this. You can make good money. Look, I did it. It's not, what's so hard? But they're 150 pounds overweight. And so that the guy that they're thinking of, like, well, why don't you just do this, this, and this, and you can make plenty of money? And they're like, well, why don't you do this, this, and this, and then you can lose 150 pounds? See, everybody has their different strengths, and these mindsets, they're not easy to change. And so like these different things, like with business, and I was kind of talking about on a different show, and I compared it to people that, like maybe the great guitar player and singer isn't writing all of his own songs. Elvis isn't writing his own songs. The people that were writing the songs for Elvis, like Lieber and Stoller, who went to go hear them sing? Anybody go hear, listen to them? Anybody, they have, how many women were tearing their hair out when they walked by? I can tell you it was zero. There wasn't a single one. Maybe it was one. Yeah. But. So our backgrounds are different, aren't they? It can be easy to criticize someone who's lacking in ways that we're not. I have two translations here of the Tao Te Ching. Something random. Only simple and quiet words will ripen of themselves. For a whirlwind does not last a whole morning, nor does a sudden shower last a whole day. Who is their author? Heaven and earth. Even heaven and earth cannot make such violent things last long. How much truer is it of the rash endeavors of men? Hence, he who cultivates the Tao is one with the Tao. He who practices virtue is one with virtue. And he who courts after loss is one with loss. To be one with the Tao is to be a welcome accession to the Tao. To be one with virtue is to be a welcome accession to virtue. To be one with loss is to be a welcome accession to loss. Deficiency of faith on your part entails faithlessness on the part of others. A little bit. Does anyone want to take the world and do what he wants with it? I do not see how he can succeed. The world is a sacred vessel which must not be tampered with or grabbed after. To tamper with it is to spoil it, and to grasp it is to lose it. In fact, for all things there is a time for going ahead and a time for following behind. A time for slow breathing and a time for fast breathing. A time to grow in strength and a time to decay. A time to be up and a time to be down. Therefore, the sage avoids all extremes, excesses, and extravagances. When I was emailing one of these jiu-jitsu schools, Brazilian jiu-jitsu school, and I was supposed to meet with the guy, and I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to say who it is, but I was asking him, I was like, okay, well, what about, can you give me an idea of your monthly fees, and do you have to sign a contract? So, like, I don't want to make any long commitments. And then he responds back, well, it takes a commitment to learn jiu-jitsu, and they have a 6-month contract. Well, I know it takes a commitment to learn jujitsu. I started it a long time ago. I know there's plenty of people that are better than me. There's, I guess what I'm getting at is there's, when I was for a long time when I was learning martial arts, you should have seen the books and books and books I had of martial arts. And I got tons of them from the library. I got tons of them from half-price books. I got tons of them, ordering them and studying them. What do you want for Christmas? I want these books. This book. It's kind of expensive, but that's the one I want. And this one and that one. And, getting into the esoteric, digging deep into the esoteric aspects of the martial arts, yoga, and chi. What's chi? Is it real? What are you talking about? And is it real? And from studying and studying and practicing, a lot of this mystery isn't really a mystery to me anymore. I pretty much have it figured out. So when somebody's like preparing to sell me on their jiu-jitsu school, I'm perfectly confident that there's going to be plenty of guys there that can beat me up. That's okay. It doesn't mean I'm so like blown away by all of it. There's like so much of it is like if without the gi, if you're wearing a gi, like if you're wearing the uniform, then a lot of time can be spent on the grips and breaking grips, and it's like this hand fighting with the grips. Where if somebody's wearing a t-shirt or no shirt, then things change. And I don't want to get too into the weeds about that, but it's like after a while, it's not such the mystery of it to me has pretty much disappeared. I pretty much get it. I've been studying this stuff for a long time. I know there's plenty of people that are better than me, but they're better fighters. They understand technique better. And that can be said about almost anyone too. I mean, tell me which guy is the best. By the time you figure that out, there's another guy that you skipped over that could have him knocked out very fast or tapping. But I guess what I'm saying is when you're developing this foundation, your background, what's it going to be? So I guess it's fitting for almost any age. I think especially if you're younger, it's easy to get lost in the weeds. Explore those weeds. You want to know if that no-touch knockout's real? Look into it. Study it. And don't believe somebody when they just say yes or no. Figure it out. Have somebody try it on you. I see so much baloney out there. But I also know that you can use sound waves to the military and police. They even have like these things that use like sound waves to like disrupt crowds, and it's like loud and confusing. And if you like ki, like do the yell, like so if say you're doing like kickboxing, and when a strike and I ki, then if I ki, you're expecting me to be striking at the same time. So I can throw your timing off with my ki. And also if somebody screams in your face, it might like shock you for a split second. And then that's when you can strike. There's ways that you can use that yell. And also exhaling, you have more power usually. But can you actually knock somebody out? Can you break a glass from yelling? No. Well, can you? Yes. Some people can, right? So with that, then to say that no-touch knockout is completely fake, well, I don't know. But is it worth messing with? If you're looking for a self-defense, Instead of just practicing yelling, you're probably better off learning how to throw some hands and feet and grapple. You're better off practicing fundamental, easily proven, and replicable things. Explore it all, and something like yoga, there's like mysteries of meditation and what can it do. And something else that's I may be digging back into like why I started this with the shaman story. Like they're legalizing hallucinogens now. Like cannabis is being legalized across the country. I think that's great. I don't use it, but I think it's crazy for it to be illegal. And like mushrooms and these hallucinogens, I don't think they should be illegal either. If you have them legal, and then you can start getting them, people that want them can get them from a reputable source. This is what it says it is. This is the dose it says it is. It's probably safer than getting it from somebody that just says, hey, here's a bag of mushrooms, good luck, and sends you on your journey. But if you're asking me, they're not necessary. And they can even be harmful because people kind of get wrapped up into that. And I see this thing, they get caught up with thinking that, oh, these hallucinogens, this is the way to like figure stuff out, and so it's way to enlightenment and this and that. You might do them on your way to enlightenment, but it's not the way to enlightenment. You can certainly get there without them. They can probably be used somewhat medicinally in certain circumstances, maybe a lot of circumstances. I couldn't imagine doing them again. It's been, I don't even know how long since I've done them, 20 years. It's a long time. I have no interest in doing them again. I wouldn't smoke weed again. At least I'd say I wouldn't. It's been almost 7 years. Next month will make 7 years. I may tell that story coming up. That show, maybe I'll do a little show about that. But where you can't go wrong on this path of enlightenment, if that's what you choose, or I don't know if I want to call it the shamanic path. I don't call myself a shaman. I'm not a shaman. That's why. But if you're looking, like I just look up back at this owl behind me, it's been there the whole time, right? So maybe when you're watching this, you're watching me talk. Maybe you're listening while you're doing the dishes. Maybe, and then you look back at your phone or your TV or whatever you're watching this on, and there's that owl again. It's been there the whole time, looking. So what's the owl? Can you, do you get what I'm saying? So I was reading from Longfellow. I was reading from the Tao Te Ching. I read from that shaman book. That shaman story is from Mickey Hart's Drumming at the Edge of Magic. It's a really cool book. I was reading from that the whole time. The owl's been right there. Let's see, I went all these different places, and the owl's right there, and that's how our true self is. So you think like, okay, mushrooms are illegal. Okay, mushrooms, I heard from this cool guy that mushrooms are this great way to experience, one love and all this stuff. So I can take mushrooms and take them and go on this trip and then like come back and right there's the owl looking. Who are you? Been there the whole time. See what I'm saying? The mushrooms aren't going to help you figure out the owl. And in another way, they might. Let's not talk in absolutes, right? Yes and no. See the difference between like duality and non-duality. Do you understand the difference between duality and non-duality? Maybe I'll do maybe that's a whole nother show. Maybe that's what all the shows are, really. Okay, so you have, ultimately, there's non-duality. So why do they call it non-duality instead of just like oneness? Well, people call it oneness too. Oneness too. So you have oneness. So we're all one. We're all the same. We're all one thing. We're all just different parts of one thing. And we're all different too. There's owls, there's humans, there's rhinoceroses, there's elephants and beetles, and there's Pink Floyd, and you know. So it's like as soon as we start explaining, so we can achieve the state of oneness. Maybe it's in meditation. Maybe it's in when I'm at that factory and I'm working on the machine and all I'm thinking about is what I'm doing. I'm just adjusting this blade. That's it. When I'm adjusting this blade on the machine, I'm not thinking about, oh, my credit card's due. I'm thinking I need this blade to be moved over 8 inches, whatever. That's it. Okay, yeah, other thoughts might pop into my mind. But there's these moments where that's it. Like as soon as we start to explain things, well, then that gets tricky. Now there's duality. See, if we have, so and like, why is the world a mess? Well, it's not. Things are going pretty well. There's also disasters. Okay. So if there's perfection, then there's no movement. As soon as there's movement, now we have duality because we have stillness, we have movement. We have movement, we have good, we have bad, we have birth, we have death, we have sickness, we have health, we have duality. So when you're striving for these states to build yourself, to build the foundation that will be your background, just try to remember like the owl, if you can see the owl in the picture here, is there the whole time. Yourself, it's there the whole time. The truth is there the whole time. You're going to go all sorts of different directions. And then maybe it's the end of the day when maybe it's when the kids are asleep, you worked for 10 hours, picked the kids up from school, you made them dinner, got to take them to martial arts practice or soccer. Then there's the homework and, oh yeah, I got to pay these bills. I got to work on my own business's website. I got to update this. There's that and this. And then at the end of the day, like, oh, come on, have a cup of tea. And then that cup of tea, there's the oneness. There's the owl is always looking at you. But hopefully when you're doing all these different things, when you're at the job that you don't like, when you're doing these things that when you get into that duality you'd rather not do, get back into building that foundation that will be the background for you to present yourself and be ready for what's new and what you really want. I think I will wrap it up here. I'm going to read another random thing. This was from the Song of Hiawatha and Other Poems. I think this was my dad's. Maybe my dad gave it to me, or I don't remember actually. But I'm pretty sure. I know he liked this poem, Hiawatha. Hiawatha is a really long poem. I've read from this before here. Let me read that one again. Footsteps of Angels. When the hours of the day are numbered and the voices of the night wake the better soul that slumbered to a holy, calm delight, ere the evening lamps are lighted and like phantoms grim and tall, shadows from the fitful firelight dance upon the parlor wall. Then the forms of the departed enter at the open door. The beloved, the true-hearted, come to visit me once more. He, the young and strong, who cherished noble longings for the strife, by the roadside fell and perished, weary with the march of life. They, the holy ones and weakly, who the cross of suffering bore, folded their pale hands so meekly, spake with us on earth no more, and with them the being beauteous, who unto my youth was given more than all these things else to love me, and is now a saint in heaven. With a slow and noiseless footstep comes that messenger divine, takes the vacant chair beside me, lays her gentle hand in mine, and she sits and she gazes at me with those deep and tender eyes, like the stars so still and saint-like, looking downward from the skies. Uttered not yet comprehended is the Spirit's voiceless prayer, soft rebukes in blessings ended, breathing from her lips of air. Oh, though oft depressed and lonely, all my fears are laid aside, if I but remember only such as these have lived and died. Well, we want to end it on that note. No, I appreciate everybody tuning in. This is, I believe, the 114th episode. It's been going on for 14 months, 16 months, a show. Pretty amazing, really. I have a really cool guest planned for next week. He's been on the show before. I have another cool guest coming up. And I think that's all. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you all for tuning in. And remember, the owl. Who are you?